All right, a number of people have asked how to run GTK on Windows, and it is possible. There are a couple of approaches to it. This one works that I'm about to give you. There's another one listed here. There's actually about 3 ways. One is the first one. The page I'm on is gtk.org/download/windows.php. Okay, it's part of the GTK project pages. The first one here involves using Microsoft's Visual C. I have played around with this and was unable to get Visual C to cooperate. This is not a really well-maintained package, as it mentions in here. The warning, the package is not maintained by the GTK, uses a different build system. The one used by GTK, something breaks, basically you're saying it's your problem. I wasn't able to get it working anyway. Seems like it could, but it was essentially getting the header file dependencies to run, so we're not doing that one. So go down to the nice one here, using GTK from MySys2. This involves installing basically a Cygwin-like Linux packages onto Windows. They are Windows programs. It's not Linux. It's not running virtual or anything like that. It is actually Windows code, but it gives you many of the tools that you would normally use in Linux, and that's fun. All right, first of all, you have to get it. And if you go to the MySys installer, it's over here. If it says i686, it means it's the 32-bit version. If it's x86-64, it's the 64-bit version. I've got the 64-bit version, which I assume most people will. You download it, then you run it. Just click on it to run, as you would normally click. It goes into downloads. I'm not doing it because I've already done it. All right, you'll see windows that look just like this. Click Next. Then where is he going to put it? Now, this is a 32-bit version. If you do the 64, it'll say MySys 64. Now, I'm putting it on my C drive. I went with the default because that's the only drive I've got. C drive. My Windows computer is a Goodwill special. I bought it at Goodwill for about $110. It's an HP i5. I upgraded it a little bit. It's a really good deal. The Goodwill here collects all the computer equipment in one store where they test it out, refurbish the stuff that works, and scavenge the parts of the stuff that doesn't. This has been a great machine for the price I paid, and it's got an awful lot of USB 3 ports on it. So it actually would make a very nice server. Anyway, I only have a C drive. If you want to put in another drive, do so. Be cautious with regard to Windows protections. I've had infinite problems. I don't know how Windows really does their protection. But anyway, by default, it'll say MySys 64 in most cases. It'll sit there and grind for a bit, and then it'll say you're done, and it's going to run it. Okay, it'll run it, and you'll get a screen. Okay, the screen is going to look like this. I can bring one up here. Now, it's not in your, well, it would be, I think, in your start menu here. Now I've got a bunch of them in my start menu under MySys 64. There's a 32-bit version I installed. I have a virtual Windows 10 on my Linux system, and it's 32-bit, so I was fooling around with that. But the one I'm using today is the 64-bit. That's not there yet because I haven't downloaded the 64-bit min-GW package. This is the one you probably have got at this point after you've done the install, and that's what it looks like. All right, I'll go up here and play with this for a second before I come down here and show you what you need to do. You may want to go down here and play with some of these options. First of all, text. The default text font sizes are very tiny. And let's see, hit collect. Yeah, I raised it to 11. I think it comes in at 9. So you may want to raise that unless your eyesight's really good. The other thing is you can play with colors. The terminal there, well, one of them here has got a look. It's on the first one. Play with the foreground, background color, but the problem is it's got all these fonts that are in color. All these, which is very popular in Linux, and I've never liked it. But anyway, so you can play around with it as you want. The other thing you want to play is go to keys and check this last one here, Control-Shift-Letter shortcuts. It allows you to cut and paste using the normal Linux Control-Shift-V for paste into an X term. Otherwise, you're going to have to type. You can't cut and paste. You're going to have to type. Okay, so that's what the window basically looks like. Mine's a little bigger. And they've, you can see there as well, you can see they're using a smaller font. All right, I'll get this off the screen. When you get it up, you want to type this, pacman-s, cap S-Y-U. These are doing updates. Take a long time. You'll sit there and grind. And then they tell you to exit from the window and go back in and restart the window, which you can get in your start menu, and run this, which apparently is double checking anything that came down here the first time. May have triggered some additional things, I gather. I don't know. But anyway, you basically run it twice. Then you're done. All right. Now, and then it shows you what you will see as it does this, and it tells you how much it's going to download and things of that nature. So yeah, and when you're done with this, we go back to the other window here. Okay, once you've done all you're doing at this point is just doing updates. From the base package, you're getting all the updates that have occurred since the base package. You're not actually done anything for GTK yet because GTK is not loaded. Okay, now you're going to start doing cutting and pasting. Let's bring my thing up again. I'll bring up we will be using the 64-bit window. But if you want to do cut and paste, you can. Now it won't. Nothing will happen here because now it's Control C, and I go over here and I hit Control Shift V, as in Victor, and you can see it entered the thing. Now if I hit Enter here, it's going to tell me it's there's nothing to be upgraded, there's no upgrades. It's 51 megabytes, it's already installed, so no, I don't want to do anything. But you do, all right? You will say yes and yes and yes, and it'll install the GTK. It takes a while. It's not all that fast. Then you want to get Glade. It's kind of important. So get Glade. You probably want to that takes a while too, get the help. That takes a couple of seconds. If you're playing with Python, you want to get the appropriate Python packages. Now this is the package for C, C++, and all the good stuff. This will really take a long time. And when it comes up, it's going to ask you for all the different packages. Do you want individual packages? Do you want them all? I said all. You probably don't want to start fiddling around with individual packages. Yeah, it's going to download more, but it's not all that big. Saying all, make sure you get everything. Okay, when that's done, you are everything should be ready to go. It mentions in here in creating, after you create your application, creating an installer to distribute it. Now this is a problem. Well, it's not a problem. I mean, it's standard. Is that if you've got an application, you want to distribute it, you've got to have the DLLs that are associated with it. Since it's not a standard Windows application, the Windows DLLs are not probably going to help you. So you've got to be able to package the DLLs along with your product. You're going to need an installer. Now you can run code that will tell you what DLLs you're using in your program, and so on and so on. I have not done a distribution, but basically the distribution means sending your code plus the necessary libraries, and that's true of any distribution. Well, we'll not worry about that right now. I'll minimize that, and I'm in the 64 window here. Now, I downloaded all the Glade stuff from upstairs into one big directory here. We're going to be playing with Part 7. Now, Part 7 is essentially the same code that I used in the previous videos. It's identically the same code almost, with a couple of changes. I added this thing here, run.script. I also told it anytime you see a .script file, it's going to open it with a window from min.gw64, because this has all of the path descriptions that are necessary to get to the libraries that are used by the code. You don't want to see print env. There's a lot of them. Those are, believe me, there's more up above here. Those are all so you want those running. I haven't fooled around with these very much, but this one is, of course, the critical one right here. That's your basic path description. Anyway, I'm in, right now I'm in, I don't know what I'm in. I'm in the root directory of min.gw. Let's go look at where that is. File Explorer. Now, why do they say this PC? Is it possible to have another PC? I suppose on the network it would, but anyway, the C drive here, get into the C drive, and you can see this is my sys64. There's also a MinGW32 that wandered into it. I'm not exactly sure how. MinGW64 is obviously the code. There's a lot of stuff down here, including the this guy here, I believe, is the I'm not sure what the difference of the W and the 64. One of these is actually the monitor. I'm guessing the one with that looks like this. Let me click that and see what happens. Yeah, you get the shell comes up. All right, I don't know what this one would do. Maybe I shouldn't click it. No, I don't want to restart this video again. All right, this looks like a Linux directory, and you might be tempted to think /usr is a place to go. Don't go there. Go into the MinGW64. Now you see more that looks like Linux directories. And you will see several things, one of which bin, which is executable files. You'd be tempted to think that the libraries are in the lib directory. Yeah, there are libraries there, but the libraries it's using are actually down here in the bin directory. I was playing around with packaging, so this is apparently where they are. So you got to know which libraries you need, and of course there's a lot of them, many of which of course you don't need. Up here, otherwise, I don't know. I haven't gone through all of these. So I don't really know what's in all of them. I didn't write it. But that guy is important. This guy is important. You see down here you've got a lot of libs, and they look standardly Linux-like. But the exes are in the bin file. This is the one that we're apparently is drawing them from when you're running. All right, so that's a little tour of where you are. It's on disk C, my sys64, MinW64, and that's where my code is. So my 64 is the basic install, and that's why the MinGW32, that's the previous install I did, and there's the 64 install. So they're under Min, the MySys code. All right, again, I didn't write it, but it actually works pretty well, so I'm going to get that off the screen. And here is the thing we're going to play with over here. And what I'm going to do is I got to go over there, because right now I'm in /home/user, and that's of course over in the min-sys area. So I'm on in another directory. So cd/c. Remember, we're using very Linux here. Users / my name is user on this machine. So that would be, in the second one, that would be your name. So my name is, quote, user. The double slashes don't hurt anything. I put a slash in there before. And I'm hitting tab, of course, to have it fill things in. It's very, very Linux-like. If you had two forward slashes, it wouldn't do anything. And now desktop. Okay. And now Glade. It's not sensitive to upper and lower case. And the backslash, of course, is because there's a blank in the middle of the thing. And part... \space, I have to type this one in because I don't know what to do at this point. And I'm going into a directory 7, part 7. This is part blank 7. Okay, and now if I do an ls, I wonder if a dir works. Yeah, it works as well. Dir being the standard Windows way of looking at a directory, ls being the Linux way. You can see there's the Linux file, tells you how big everything is. And, okay, what do we want to look at first? Well, first of all, let's look at the Glade file. To do Glade, it's Glade part1.glade. Going to fill it in? Yes. Part1.glade. I named in all the code for all these different episodes. I used part 1 all the way through, even though we got to like part 33. But it turns out it worked out better because now I don't have to worry about different names. And when I make a script, I can always say, whoops, I hit one of the tricky keys, the Windows key on the keyboard. So part1.glade. Get back over here and see what happens. There you are. I picked 7 because it had a bunch of different buttons in it. It wasn't hopelessly complex. Because the more complex the application was, it was going to take more work to get it to run, as you'll see in a moment. Okay, so it had radio buttons, check buttons, buttons with icons, a toggle button, a spin button, an on-off switch, and a combo box. and a couple of labels. All right, and you can go back to the original video to see how this was built. It's part 7, but it's got, you know, a lot of the stuff you would normally use in a typical application. So and here's Glade. The first time it comes up, it'll ask you if you want to participate in a survey. Glade always does that. It's up to you if you want to. Okay, so there's Glade. I'm going to click it off, and now I'm over here. All right, how did I get it to work? First of all, I modified the code. Now I have set it up on this machine that anything that ends in .c, it'll bring up Notepad. Notepad's a pretty good editor, really. If you're over here, the editor is Vim, which is VI, but use Vim, not VI. So I'll just bring it up here. It's a little clearer here, and it's a C file. You may have to, if you've got Microsoft Visual C on your machine, C files are probably set up to be opened by Microsoft Visual C, so you may want to check that. So here is the code. It's the same code as before, except this. These guys right here are different. And for every one of the signal handling functions, which are all down at the bottom here, you see there they all are: combo 1 change, entry 1 change, switch ones. All right, for every one of those, there's a line up here. I hope there is. So I had to go down and tediously cut and paste them. And as it turns out, Notepad's actually easier to do cut and paste. Notepad's pretty clean. All right, to every one of those, I added this guy. And I haven't actually checked to see what that really means, but it has to do with exporting into the link table the name of this function. And as a result, it'll be happy. If you don't do this, it'll tell you it can't find any of the functions. The linker in Windows is different than the linker in Linux. And the linker in Windows cannot handle dynamically files that are dynamically linked. Because when you run the builder down here, you are actually linking into the callbacks. The callbacks are being done here, or it's trying to put into a table callbacks. That doesn't work in Windows. It works, but if they're already in the table. So, and I made them global up here. So, for every one of the signal functions, signal handling functions, the on functions they're usually called, you have to put a header up here. Normally, you don't need the headers, but you have to put a header, and because that's done by the builder when you actually link to the individual element on the screen. So gmodule export, put it in front, you'll be happy. Okay, I'll kill that. Let's, I modified compile.script. Let's go up here and look at one that's not modified. I don't think I modified this one. Now it's going to try to open it, so I'm going to open it with, now let me do this without changing all the defaults. All right, if you look at the compile.script, out at the end of that one line is export dynamic. That is for Linux. We do not want that for Windows. Remove it. Get rid of this here, the thing at the very end. All right, if you do that, happiness will ensue. And you can see here under compiles.script, open with, let me do it, yes. And you can see over here, it's not there. It's been removed. All right? Get rid of that. Otherwise, don't change anything. Just leave it as is. Now you can compile it. I bring over the window here, and I simply say, you have say / unless you modify path. There should be, well, I'm not in my home directory, so but there should be a .bashrc or something that you can go in there and set up path differently and so forth, which would be pretty standard. /compile.script, and it's hopefully did it. All right. When it did it, it created part1-bin is the Linux executable. Part1-bin.exe is the Windows 10 executable. Now from here I can run it. All right. It looks for an executable, and and up it comes. Let's get some of these guys, these other guys off the screen. The fonts are kind of small, but they're small all over the place here. I don't know how to change, well, there's ways of changing fonts in Windows. I haven't fooled with them. All right, the spin button here, you could set a value, and then when you click this, it reads it. That's how it was set up. I'm hiding a label here. That's a tooltip, by the way. That's from the Glade. Toggle button, just to toggle when active, not active when you click it. The on-off switch. See, they're working. There's the test entries in the combo box. Radio button 2, radio button 1, radio button 3. It says 1 when inactive as a result, and check button. So yeah, there you are. There is. These are resizable windows, but they're not resizable below the minimum profile. So yeah, there it is. That's a GTK application. It's written in C. It's pretty much standard C. We're up and running. Now the question became, if I wanted to, you notice I ran it by typing it in over here. There were some messages that popped out. There's a warning. There's some invalid cast in there, but it has nothing to do with what we're doing right now. All right. The question became, how do I actually, running it over here, bringing up a window, typing in the thing you want to run may not be the most convenient thing. So how could I click on it? So I made a script called run.script. Can I open that up with Notepad? If I said choose another app, I could alter it. And what's in there is a standard Linux-like script. # exclamation point # bang. It's pronounced /bin/bash ./part1-bin.exe ampersand, which means kicks it off as a separate task and then exits the shell. The shell will disappear at that point. You'll see it briefly. There may be a better way of doing it. I don't know, but this works. There's probably a better way of doing it, but again, I'm not a Windows person. So so this allows me, instead of bringing up a window and clicking in it, it allows me to click on it. Now, what I did here, in order for this to, I don't know if it's going to show me when I say choose another app. Yeah, it's the MySys2 MinGW shell launcher. Okay. I went in there and told it. And you notice the checkbox there, always do the same with files of this type. So anything that's .script, it'll open it with one of these shells here. Okay, and now it's not instantaneous. Again, I've got a relatively slow disk on here. Okay, so I'll just double click here. You see, there's the shell popping up, and the shell goes away because the shell exits. But the GTK app stays, and so everything's working, as you can see. No problem. Spin button is 0. Toggle doesn't do anything except tells you it's toggled. So it's up and running, and this is not running. This guy over here is just sitting here idle. So it brought up the window momentarily, and then it dropped it down. If you're running off of a SSD or something like that, I think that window would flash up and go away very quickly. There's probably a way of eliminating the window flash altogether. Don't know what it is yet. But yeah, so everything appears to work for all the things I've tried. Getting into some of the more complicated ones where I had hundreds of signal functions, obviously that requires a lot of tedious cutting and pasting. But yeah, there it is. So if you want to run on Windows, and I can't imagine why you would, this is a way of doing it. Now, for me, having gone into Windows, I'm going to have to go into the Witness Protection Program, so I may not be around for a while. But there you are. It does work. Hopefully, it'll work for you, too. So I'll click this off, and click that off, and you've got basically a Linux-ish environment. There's another way of doing it, which is there's an Ubuntu plugin for Windows 10. I tried it once last year or sometime, I forget when, and it's there. It does have GTK built into it. It's not running virtual. It's actually running real, but there's a way of going through there to do it as well. I'll try to see how that works, but then you're getting an awful lot of additional Ubuntu-like baggage. But the concept apparently is somewhat similar. All right, that's it.